This is a response to Professor Jette Newman's comment on future of service design and what kind of services and service design we really need in the future. I totally agree with Professor Newman's comment on that good service design understands what people really need and kind of tries to address how people can live better lives. But I think we should make a distinction that there's actually two levels of service design. The other one I can call something like developing of services, and the other one may be service innovation. And I think service design and especially human-centric approach is really needed in both of those levels. Professor Newman used the example of banking and bank automats and other services developed by financial sector. And I think those kind of organizations are a really good example of kind of old, typical heavy organizations which operate on the market that is quite stable, and there is not much new innovation needed to be done. So pretty much all the innovation, what they are doing, is actually just developing the existing services, and they often do it from the point of view of their existing structures, their whole platform of the service delivery, and also some back-end systems. And of course for them trying to get out of that perspective and really think if people actually need those services, it's really hard for them. But at the same time, in this developing that they are doing, it's really necessary that they learn the principles of designing for humans, the human-centric approach to designing for services. I think one really good example from here is a case that IDEO did with the Spanish bank PBVA. And they redesigned the whole machine and the service in the bank automats. And I think that's a really good example that what good user experience and service design can do to make our everyday life less complicated. But on the other hand, I think when we think about the kind of service design innovation, it's a lot easier and faster in startups, which can pretty much like start from the scratch and from the clean table, and they don't have carry the burden of their like existing structures of service delivery. And new innovation and really addressing what people need is a lot easier for them. And I think it's a kind of field that we should pay more attention to and learn from there. Because some of the best startups are actually built on the mission to change human behavior. And I could say that, of course, some are built on innovation in technology, but there's also great examples of startups who really got the insight of what people really need and how can we change the human behavior and really totally rethink the way that what kind of services people need. So from the startup scheme, there is coming services that are actually replacing the services that are now provided to us by the kind of old clumsy organizations. And also here in Finland, I think it's our startup scheme here has a world-class potential. And for bigger organizations, it's really hard to develop that kind of culture. Maybe Google can do it, but there's not many other organizations who have been actually able to develop that kind of startup culture within the organization. And I think that's pretty strange, because especially when you think about services in the field of product-oriented organizations, there has been a long culture of strong R&D, research and design within the organization, but it's mostly connected to products. So when you think about services, there's not really that kind of legacy in many organizations. And when even those biggest service organizations here in Finland, let's say maybe the mobile operators, they have their R&D, but it's very heavily it still very heavily carries the kind of legacy from the product-oriented perspective, but it's not very human-centric in that way. So I guess there's a lot to learn from kind of the startup perspective here, and how to actually to be able to develop that kind of R&D culture for service organizations, and how to make it human-centric. So I think basically service designers should be able to generate empathy towards the users, the customers, the people in two levels. They should understand how to solve those everyday problems in the services that we face every day, pretty much those that are built by big organizations, or often government organizations, based on the existing structures that are now persist. But then on the other hand, the service designers should have the ability to kind of step a bit backward and in a way step out of the current context and the existing services, and like Professor Newman said, really try to understand what are our goals as people, what do we want to achieve, what do we need, and often especially what do we don't need. So from here I think we come to an interesting thing, that how can we nourish this kind of development within the whole society and also in different fields in different companies. So I think if you ask me how we should support this kind of innovation to become more into practice, I think we should really look at the startups, and maybe also government should put more money there and help them, because that's the faster way to really develop service innovation. If we invest more and more money or support the old organizations which have the different way of often thinking about how they develop services, we actually support the barriers that kind of block the new wave of human-centric innovation. So I think pretty much if you think where the future innovation in the field of service design comes from, and especially where it's going to come from fast, it's probably the young entrepreneurs, guys who are much younger than me probably, and the businesses that they are building around people and around the human-centric perspective. And at the same time, as we are for sure we will see this happen during this decade, there's a lot to be done with these bigger organizations and helping them to, in their jobs that they are doing, developing their existing services, because service designers are needed there to solve those problems that we as customers face every day in our everyday lives when we use different online or offline services.